My name is Heather Gast, and I'm your host for today's discussion. Today, we're going to be talking about the subject of product development. So we're going to meet 3 FIDM graduates from the FIDM Merchandise Product Development Program to discuss the project of product development and what it looks like inside the brands that they're working for today. How is that process evolving now in the light of the current economic, technological, and fashion trends that we're seeing right now? So first, let me ask a good question. What really is product development? It's not necessarily something we hear about every day. Well, product development involves the business, creative, and the technical planning phases that have to occur inside of an organization in order to take an idea from an initial concept all the way to a finished product that can be in the hands of the consumer, that's you and me. So each one of these grads has built a successful career specializing in one of those phases, the business, creative, or technical phases of that process. So I'm really excited to introduce to you these 3 alums. Let me tell you about them. First, we have Jordan Lausch. He's a 2014 FIDM graduate, and he's the director of yarn development at Urban. If you don't know, that's the brand umbrella name for Free People, Anthropologie, and Urban Outfitters. He also happens to be the director of product development for sweaters at Urban Outfitters. Second, we have Diamond Jones. Diamond is a 2018 FIDM grad, and she is the process engineer for a little company called Louis Vuitton. Third, we have Marty McKenna. He's a 2019 FIDM grad, and he's the apparel developer for women's and kids golf apparel for Adidas. So a great group to talk to tonight. Welcome all 3 of you. Thank you for being here. Happy to see you all. Hello. Hi, Diamond.
Hello.
Jordan, Marty, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Good to see you. Looking forward to hearing a little bit from you. I thought that first maybe we should start with a little bit of a foundational question because I gave a little background on what product development is, but your job titles are not necessarily things that the audience knows completely about. So could you guys give us a little bit of a background, describe your job responsibilities, and then could you tell us how it actually relates to product development as I just described it? Jordan, would you like to go first?
Yeah, for sure. So again, thanks for having me. It's so exciting to be here and to talk to the FIDM community and public. But to sort of describe my current role at Urban, I'm sort of operating in a dual role currently. So as director of yarn development for all 3 brands, Anthropologie, Free People, Urban, I'm responsible for sourcing, developing, negotiating all yarns for all knit sweater product across all 3 brands. So if you're shopping one of those brands and you see a sort of sweater product, it's likely that that yarn passed through my hands at some point. And then sort of the other part of my job currently is I'm managing all of product development for Urban Outfitters men's and women's knit sweater product. So any sweater product from concept to completion, I manage through a team of direct reports. And the way that I sort of like to describe that is if the sweater product is a celebrity, we sort of act as the agent in making sure that that product makes all of its necessary deadlines within its lifespan, is developed within our costing parameters and to our brand's expectation, and then ultimately delivers in our stores on time. So in short, that's what I'm responsible for.
So we all have to buy sweaters.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Great. I love it. Thank you for that. Diamond, will you tell us about yours next?
Sure. My official title is process engineer working for Louis Vuitton US manufacturing here in California. And I know it's like engineer, fashion, where's the relation here?
Yeah.
I kind of look at it as like a technical design role as well. And so I am looking at mainly how we're preparing our material to be assembled. So if you break down like our chain, we are cutting the material, then you have to prepare the material, and then it is assembled. And so I'm I'm looking at different processes such as painting, gluing, thermoforming. I'm looking at those different processes, defining them for our different products, trying to look at times. I'm looking at efficiency. It's a great role because it covers so many different areas. And since I liked material science, it's really good for me. So I get to work with the different materials, leathers, our canvases. And then we have some new stuff happening, even with like thermoplastics. So I'm looking at defining the process for all of that before it goes into assembly, where it's stitched and then made into the bag. So I work mainly with leather goods. So I'm looking at all the bags.
Yeah, that's great. It might surprise some of our audience that there is such a technical side that it could be called an engineer to fashion. That's pretty cool.
Right.
Thank you, Diamond. Marty, what about you?
Yeah, so my role at Adidas is the apparel developer for women's and kids golf. And in its simplest form, I like to say that my role is taking the sketch from the designer and working with our factories to make it happen. So this would be, creating tech packs, making sure we have the right materials. And then also one of the biggest things is making sure we get it to cost the right from FOB. We just want to make sure everything comes at the right target margin so we get the right profit. And so my role is just simply making sure all of it is constructed properly and making sure it is executed on time.
Wow. So it's cool to hear all of your different roles, the variety there can be within this one area of product development. So that helps us understand where you guys are coming from, definitely. So next, we also heard when I was telling about your jobs that you all work for these like powerhouse brands. And your audience is very different. They appeal to very different customer base. So for each of you, I'd like to know, what is your brand's philosophy? Who is your target customer? And then how do those two components affect what you're doing every day on the job? Simon, you want to start us off?
Louis Vuitton's definitely a brand. I mean, it's an iconic brand that's been around since 1854. So one of the three top words would be iconic, modern, timeless. So it's just kind of having all these different styles and products over the years that work with travel, that have been able to change and be modern from that 1854 until now. So when you're looking at our target customer, typically, you're thinking affluent, people that can afford the brand, people who love to travel. But what we're seeing now, which is really exciting, bringing on Virgil Abloh to be our creative director for men's. Recently, we are seeing a shift. You're seeing so many more people, younger people who are entrepreneurs or influencers, whoever it may be, that now that maybe it's affluent or older generation, now pretty much anyone can be a customer of Louis Vuitton, which is really exciting. You're seeing different viewpoints from streetwear to more modern pieces. So it's nice to see from 1854 till now, just the growth and number of people that get to buy into Louis Vuitton. It's really exciting.
That is exciting. Yeah, opening it up to a different group. That's great.
Yeah.
What about you, Marty?
Yeah,
How are you being influenced by those two factors?
Yeah, so at Adidas, first of all, our philosophy is through sport, we have the power to change lives. And that links to our consumer, the Southern California golfer, just by living and breathing what we do every day. And so as a product developer, it is really important that we understand our target consumer, what they do, what they breathe, where they come from, what's their culture, because our job is to make the product that they need and that they want, that they will use every day. And so I think having the brand philosophy linked to the consumer is really important to understand.
Yeah, definitely. Jordan, how about you?
Yeah, so the way I sort of boil it down for our urban brands is that we're sort of here to provide this very diverse, creative, socially active customer with spaces, with outlets, and products to sort of be just that, sort of meeting them at all of these major milestones within their lives. So the urban brand, for example, we're sort of joining that customer in college, so at college age, which is sort of this prime moment of discovery for them, and sort of giving them the tools at that time that they need to create their own sense of style. So whether that's through apparel, through music, through home goods, and just sort of honing into that really beautiful sense of discovery. And then with Free People, we sort of follow that customer who has maybe found her super creative bohemian voice at Urban, and wants to expand on that, and is sort of gaining this keener eye for craft and details and design. And then with Anthropologie, we're sort of rejoining that same customer in her 30s and 40s and beyond, when she's really ready to sort of create a home and a space for herself. So those are sort of, they sound like sort of all different customers, but the way that I try to see it is that we're following sort of this singular customer through these major moments. And the way that relates back to my role within sweaters is sort of directly, in the sense that the raw materials that I'm sourcing for one brand might not be appropriate for the other, as in terms of aesthetic or in terms of price point. So if I'm sourcing a merino program for Anthropologie, that might not be appropriate for the Free People girl and her ideals and her aesthetic. A core cotton acrylic that we use day and night in sweaters and Urban might not make sense for the Free People girl or Anthropologie, unless we're expanding it into like really beautiful stitches and mixing it with different yarns, and sort of playing into those different aesthetics. So we're sort of always visualizing that customer every day and making sure that that product makes sense for them.
That's such a cool way to look at it. And when you're telling that story, I can think of people in my life that I know that have lived that exact journey. They've had that exact life along with your brands.
I know,
So
as I'm
really
saying
cool.
that, I'm like, am I that Anthropologie girl now? Like, have I reached that point?
Yeah, which one am I? Which one am I at? Yeah,
Right.
Exactly. No, that's so cool. That's such a great way to think of your customer, and then also to have such a lifetime relationship with them is really very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So moving on a little bit, you guys, to what we're all going through right now. Elephant in the room, the world has been affected by COVID-19, and certainly you all know the fashion industry has been just dramatically affected by it. So stores are shuttered for safety reasons, manufacturing, is disrupted. There's major shifts in consumer spending habits, which is interesting. Their buying behaviors are emerging differently than they were before. So for you all, how is that impacting your current job? How are these events affecting you? And then what is changing in your company to match that? Marty, what do you think about that?
So at Adidas, in my role, I think one of the things that I experienced first was my factory shutting down. So obviously the coronavirus originated back in China. And so I lost contact with my factories as they shut down. I wasn't able to get samples made. And there's still some factories that I work with in the Philippines that I'm not in contact with my main point of contact there. And so that was definitely a big adjustment, and we're working through. Even my own role at Adidas, I'm now one of my coworkers had to switch roles and leave the company, unfortunately. And so I'm now taking her role, and I'm going to be developing accessories from here on out. So that's something interesting as well. So lesson to be learned, always stay on your feet. But then for Adidas as a whole, one of the things is that we got lucky in the golf business unit, because golf was one of the first few sports to open up during the coronavirus. And so our sales were, they weren't hurt as much as some other business units, to say. So, it's definitely been a difficult time, but we've been able to fight through it.
Good. Being nimble is a key word there, right? Being able to adapt even in your own role.
Yes, adapting and just staying on your feet.
Yeah. Jordan, what about you? How are you being affected?
Yeah, so I would say in every way. Really, since, as Marty mentioned, when the virus sort of first took hold back in the end of January and February overseas, with our factory closures and sort of that first wave, so to speak, in how to react in accordance to our supply chain on that end. And then now, which is the part that I don't think that we were expecting as much, as of course all of our store closures here, and sort of having to react to that now. And then separate from that, just from a corporate standpoint, everything has sort of changed since March, since we've closed our stores. For example, a project that I'm working on right now, we would normally be traveling with our design teams overseas during this time to review all the new autumn winter yarn collections in Italy to really kick off that sourcing season for 2021. Obviously we can't do that, so sort of in the middle of figuring out how to do that not only remotely but digitally with our design teams in Philly, me here in LA, getting those collections and yarns in their hands and still making impactful product through this. But it hasn't been just that. I mean, it's been every meeting since March that has been digital. So line presentations, sketch reviews, color sorts, buyer reviews have all been through Zoom, which has in ways been sort of wonderful in knowing that these roles that we deemed previously as location dependent can sort of operate independently. And I think we're finding actually a lot of efficiencies through that on the corporate side. And then just sort of diving into the retail side with our stores still being closed. Now it's sort of up to us to better understand this online customer that is shopping much more with us online, and how do we give this customer sort of the breadth of assortment that she needs online while most of our stores remain closed. So from overseas to corporate to retail, every aspect has changed.
Wow, that is a lot. Yeah, super impactful. Yeah. You seem like you need a break after that question. That's a lot. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe I should have had you list what did not change. That would have been easier. Sorry, next time I'll do that. Yeah. Let's take a second and hear from Diamond. Let's hear about your story.
Yes, very similar to Marty and Jordan. With Louis Vuitton and being global in the different countries that we either have to pull pieces from, material from, we were very much impacted and very much the same, you know, starting in China and slowly moving across the world. You just start seeing the shutdowns. We weren't able to get things as fast. So we did start to feel it pretty early on, February time, looking for pieces, looking for, you know, things that we needed for our production, but we couldn't get access to because, as Jordan and Marty shared, they started shutting down before we did. And we were down from about March, started getting back up in May. We were furloughed for a few months there. Now we're kind of in an interesting spot because now we are catching up, because while we might have been down, our customer, of course, is shopping online and, you know, can easily get online and get a bag. But now we're catching up with our production. Our supply chain is getting back up online, and now we're trying to see how we can be efficient and meet our customers' demands. And even on the retail side, as Jordan was sharing, with our stores closing down, and now we have our ambassadors who are having to figure out different ways to reach back out to the customer. Like, hey, we're still here to support you, whether it may be through apps, through text messages. There's a relationship that they share, and so they're trying to be more innovative as far as reaching out. But as they shared, I mean, from retail, from production, from shutting down, it has been quite interesting. And then going back into all of it and trying to like see where everything is at and then what we can do to offset it has been an interesting challenge.
That sounds crazy. Yeah, playing major catch up. That's insane. Yeah. Oof. Wow. So then let's say that, you know, eventually we know we're going to get through this. So looking past the pandemic, we come out of it. What do you guys see as to innovation that you're seeing happening now? Because these challenges you guys are talking about are huge, and you're all talking about being nimble and innovation. So what kinds of things are you seeing happen now trending in the fields of technology, the supply chain management, e-commerce, things like that are going to impact your roles in the future? What are you seeing there? Jordan, you want to start us off?
Yeah. So, I mean, now we're sort of rolling into our 5th month of being in quarantine, which is a place where I don't know we all thought we would be. So I think the way that I'm trying to look at it, and definitely the way that Urban's trying to look at this, is what a opportunity to reset and sort of shed processes that weren't working and grab hold of these new efficiencies that we're finding. in a sense that maybe going back to normal will never happen, because there are areas of normal that weren't necessarily working to our advantage. So I think that's really exciting. For me specifically, as far as supply chain and material management and how that impacts my role, currently looking into ways, how can we position our core yarn qualities out in order for our merchants to have more time to read and react to sales and react to this uncertain business and pull the trigger on styles later. Sort of leveraging all of those yarns across all three brands has been really important. As far as technology, our designers are sort of leaning heavily into the Clo system, which is a 3D design service of which you can upload real fabrics to and sort of calculate the weight and drape of a garment, which we've had to do in some of our past line presentations because samples were stuck overseas, or we just wanted to cut down on sampling during this time. So I think that's going to be really exciting. And from a brand standpoint, Urban's sort of looking at that to reduce our total sampling by about 50%, which will of course be a huge cost savings. And a way for us to sort of perfect the product before it ever gets to the factory in the first place, which I think will be huge. So that's just sort of a few of the things that will carry us through this.
That sounds interesting, exciting changes.
Yeah.
Diamond, I'm excited to hear about your changes too. What do you think?
Yeah, very similar to what Jordan's saying, looking at the processes, because as I mentioned before, having to catch up in production, now we can take a better look at our processes that we were doing pre-coronavirus, and maybe they weren't that useful. So one of the things I am looking at in particular, looking at our efficiency, looking at processes, seeing what we can eliminate, because now we're like, maybe we could move faster. That was never useful in the first place, having that type of process. On the retail side, like I was mentioning also, how they're connecting back to the customer, reaching out, how can they do more of the online, how do they keep that experience? Because, I know for luxury and even for different retailers, it's the in-store experience sometimes that makes it. It's the ambiance, it's the champagne, it's the whatever makes it exciting for shopping. And so now how do you create that experience, and you make it where they're going to be at home and maybe they're talking to you through the phone or the computer. So I know that they're re-examining that. And then we're also trying to do a bit more things in-house as well. Some of the things that we might reach out to different countries for, now we're trying to see, okay, let's see what we can actually do here so that we can cut down on that time, the shipping time that it takes to receive things. And so we can save also money by doing some of the processes ourselves in-house as opposed to going outside for it. So there's so many different things we're looking at now.
Wow, yeah, no, I can see how for a luxury brand that's such a unique challenge too, because like you said, the in-store experience, how do you bring that home?
Exactly.
That I'd like to hear how you figure that out, Diamond. Let me know in the future. I'd like an update. She's like, me too. Marty, let's hear about you. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, so I honestly think the same as Jordan and Diamond. The new normal is not normal. We're in a new world. This is going to change everything, I think, from the 3D fittings to, brands pushing their services more online rather than through brick and mortar. I think there could be more pop-up shops because of this, just because today we have places like Shopify where you can start a business for very minimal costs. Personally, through the production process, I've been affected in a lot of ways. Fittings, I think, as Diamond said, we're seeing what we can eliminate within the production process. One of them being with my fittings, rather than having to pay a fit model, I'm having my factory send me pictures of the garments on their mannequins and I'm fitting them myself. So there's a lot to be done and there's been a lot changing. And I think we're almost finding a more efficient route of doing things digitally than in person.
It's going to be interesting to see how all these things you're talking about do come out the other side. It seems like all of us might be a little bit better off in some ways because of the efficiencies that you guys are talking about. So that's going to be kind of fun to see, actually.
Yes, it'll be very interesting to see.
For everyone, I guess. Yeah, definitely for you three.
Yeah.
So then right now then, speaking of buying behavior, what specific changes are you seeing right now in buying behavior in your category? So each of you are in your different categories you just described. What are you seeing specifically? And then do you think those are going to carry through those buying behaviors? Diamond, do you want to start us off?
Sure. It's an interesting thing with luxury, right? Because right now with the coronavirus, people have lost their jobs, people are unemployed, people are really focusing on other things, maybe family. So I think there is this one point of looking at need versus want, because it is at such a higher price point. So you do have people who might be like, oh, I'm fine, so I'll just buy, whatever bag I want online. And then you do have the other side where people are starting to say, let me wait till the economy gets better, let me wait till things are back to normal. So I think we're kind of seeing twofold, because like I was saying, people are online, they want to feel better, they want to buy something. But then on the other hand, you do have, okay, we're cutting back, we are seeing people kind of falling back a little bit, but then there's still that demand. There's still those bags that people wanted before and they still want them now. So I think it is kind of a balance between the want and the need, and then we're still filling the need because we're still catching up and sending everything out. So I think we're especially looking forward, maybe that is a part of a conversation someone has with themselves, like, is this something that I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend that much on this product, or maybe I want to invest in this product. I think it's going to come down to the person, but I think we, as with many different retail sectors, we are seeing a bit of the kind of, we're gonna not shop right now, but then you're seeing a little bit of an uptick, mainly more in China than anything, since kind of life is getting a little bit closer back to normal on that side. So we are seeing the increase more in international sales. And I think maybe as we progress here in the US, we will also see the same trend as kind of falling back and then slowly building back up.
That's true. We can kind of look to them to see how their flow is going and kind of imagine what we might have. That's true. Very true. Yeah. Marty, what about you? What do you think?
So yeah, luckily for Adidas, I'm in the golf unit. And as I said earlier, we weren't affected and hit as hard by this because golf was one of the first sports to open up during the coronavirus. So we, typically we are one of the top golf brands in the world. And in a lot of departments, we are the #1 golf brand in the world. And so now that golf's open, we're seeing some consumers actually pick up golf for the first time. So our sales have somewhat, increased in a certain way, and it's been a positive notion for us. So that's been a plus for us. And then also during the coronavirus, everyone's quarantined, everyone's sitting inside and they want to get out, they want to get active. So as an activewear brand, this could almost be viewed as a positive thing because consumers are going to be shifting their buying habits more towards athleisure activewear. So it's definitely been an interesting experience.
Big time that. I totally see that. Absolutely. I think we're all feeling those. Actually, what both of you said, I think we all feel that way. You're so right. Yeah. What about you, Jordan?
Yeah, so just like Diamond and Marty said, we're sort of dealing with a customer whose entire life has changed. So the way that we would sort of historically and formally manage our business and sort of looking at last year's sales, and then a year from now looking at this year's sales to sort of measure how that's going to carry our business through, doesn't necessarily exist. We can't look towards last holiday to measure how this holiday is going to look because we just don't know what that's going to look like yet. But we can sort of guess what that's going to look like. So the way that's impacted me is that the categories that would normally carry our business along as core volume drivers, so dresses, denim, our customer doesn't really need as much of right now because she's inside. She won't need a holiday dress. So what that means for sweater product is we're sort of finding ourselves in other categories and not just sweater tops. So not just pullovers and cardigans, but how can sweaters expand into the lounge category, which is now doing better than ever because that is what our customer is going for. And then as far as holiday dressing, we sort of think that we'll be dealing with this customer that will eventually travel, but that travel will be to a place that she can drive to. So does she need a holiday dress for that? Probably not, but she might opt for like a really cool premium cardigan. So it's actually sort of interesting. We're seeing our line plans increase in sweaters as we sort of find sweater product throughout other product categories we maybe wouldn't normally see it in.
Yeah. Yeah. Diamond, did I ask you already? Now I can't remember.
Oh yeah, you did.
Okay. I thought I started with you, but I got confused for a second. So, okay, good. Thank you guys for sharing that with us. So I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of going back for all of you now. So we've been going forward a lot, but really quick, I am curious about all of you when you started. How did your FIDM education prepare you for your career in the industry? Maybe Marty, you could start us off.
Yeah, so I would say at FIDM, I knew very little going into FIDM. I knew that I wanted the fashion industry. Sometimes I thought I didn't know what I wanted. But at FIDM, they really gave me the core understanding of the industry and how it operates on an international level. And I think that helped tremendously because it is an international industry. Everything I do every day is, sending emails overseas and making sure that everything is functioning properly. So this goes from costing to garment production to construction. So just over a lot of different areas, FIDM really introduced me to a world and gave me a very strong foundation on how to do my job with such skill and on just a good level and a good industry standard.
Good. That's so good to hear. What about you, Jordan?
I think that FIDM sort of focused curriculum really helped me in my journey. And just sort of going way back, I started my college journey as an art major at Temple in Philly, and I knew that I wanted to sort of get into fashion through art, but I couldn't really make out the path. And so after my first year there, I found myself moving across the country to FIDM because I really was hungry for that direct approach. And I wanted to be in the field, and I wanted to be working, and I wanted to be creating. But I also knew that I needed to exercise this analytical side of my brain, which is why I chose product development, because you're sort of operating on both sides of your brain. So I think that there are things that I've pulled from all of my classes, but it's really that sort of broad understanding of the product development process that was so valuable to me. And I think when you're in the industry, in these fields, you're sort of with your coworkers didn't necessarily go to school for, say, product development. You're working alongside communications majors and business majors and design majors. So I found that actually having that understanding and really focused understanding gave me a little bit of an upper hand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. That does. Very specific.
Mm-hmm.
And because you have that broad foundation, we already know all of you kind of went different directions or niches. So it's cool that you all have that.
Yeah.
Diamond, what about you?
Yeah. By the way, there might be an ice cream truck passing by, so I apologize.
We'll all have the song stuck in our head together.
We all went outside. For me, what I appreciate about FIDM was how real world the work was. While many companies do things differently, at least what I was doing, it was kind of really direct. And I appreciated that, at least with the staffing as well, they all have industry experience. So they know how to teach the curriculum in a way that they're like, okay, when you get out into the real world, these are some similar things you're going to be looking out for. So like as in Jordan, my background is in pure engineering. So then making the switch over to fashion, I had no clue what this industry, what to expect. But I would say going from FIDM and now where I'm at, I can definitely see the relation as far as, okay, I did a bomb there, I do a bomb here, or I might have done a tech sheet there, I can do a tech sheet here. So I definitely gave me that confidence going into the real world, because I could see, okay, when we did that, oh, they actually do that in industry. Me being an engineer, we're always in school, we're always doing like the perfect calculations for the perfect conditions. This wasn't about perfect conditions. This was like real life. You might have a deadline, you're looking for these materials, you're sourcing this, you're testing it this way as well. My favorite class being material science, and now working with materials, I can definitely see the relation. Even some of the same testing apparatuses we do have at Louis Vuitton. So I did appreciate that real life feel that FIDM gave me that I can then relate back.
Wow, that's so fun to hear. And I totally agree with that. That's one of the things that I do love about FIDM is that it's not about the perfect scenario. And I so agree with that, because it's all about getting you through that like learning curve while you're at FIDM. So you don't have to do it when you're out in the real world.
Exactly.
And I think that's huge, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I want to kind of switch gears a little bit, you guys, because we have some good questions coming in from the audience. So if you'll give me just a second, let me pull it up. Okay. Okay, so the first one is from Betsy. So Betsy wants to know, she says, I'm so surprised that LV is doing any product development in the United States. Can you speak about that?
Sure. Good question, because I was too. When I had learned that this position, I was like, wait, what? Even though I'm a process engineer, I do work with product developers. So we have leader and follower sites. We are a follower site. Our leader sites are based in Europe. So a lot of times when they are developing a bag, it starts in Paris. And then they go out to maybe like a site that might be nearby, like in Spain or different parts of France, and then they develop the bag there. Then they communicate the designs, the drawings, and everything then to us here in California, and then we develop from what they have here. So it is kind of like a translation, if you will. But what I've been really quite surprised of is because in one sense, I was like, oh, okay, it's just copy and paste. It is not copy and paste, because there is still a bit of development that we do have to do here in California. Like I said, I am looking at glues, I'm looking at paints. I'm still having to define, okay, this application works best. Let's use this tool to do this. So while yes, they are kind of doing the early work, we still have to take in the drawings, adjust the drawings, and then we'll translate that to making the bag here in the US. But that's a great question, because you're like, I was like, is this like secret? Did people know that this was happening here? So great question, because it was a surprise to me as well.
Yeah, and now we all know. Very good, thank you.
Yeah.
So this is for all of you. Could you describe a day in the life of your job for each of you? Jordan, do you want to start?
Sure.
Or you need a second?
No, it's okay. I'm just trying to think about it, because sort of every day is very different, in the sense that every day we're sort of moving through our calendar, our development calendar. So at any given time, I could be working across 5 different seasons. So for example, right now, we're designing into summer of this coming year, but my head is really shifting towards pre-development for fall, winter of next year. So a day could look like for me a line presentation for the season that I'm currently working on. It could be factory communication in procuring materials to bring in to review with our designers for future seasons. It could be a costing roll-up meetings with our chief sourcing officer and leadership team, and sort of looping them in on our progress and our process. So I think that's the beautiful thing about my job, is that any day is a new day, but it keeps it really exciting.
Yeah, I think that as for creatives, a lot of times that's what we really like anyways. We look forward to that kind of a description. So that's really cool to hear from you.
Right.
Yeah. Diamond, you?
Yeah, very much the same. Every day is different. I have no clue I have like my set priorities, and then what actually happens, and I'm like, oh, I didn't do any of that because I ended up doing all of this. I do have like the typical get into work, let me check my emails real quick. And so because I do work in manufacturing, I can be on the floor a lot and within my preparations department. And similar to how Jordan's doing different seasons, I'm working on different bags at a time. So I can be I think right now I'm working on maybe 4 different products. So I'm having to check on the progress of each product. I kind of divide up my day based on maybe this bag's moving a little bit slower. I can then redirect myself over here. There's also a lot of meetings because, as you can imagine, with manufacturing, something's happening every hour of the day. So we do have to check in with each other. Okay, how's your department's doing? Do you need me to get this to you quickly? Okay, we're missing this. So now I have to go to a second building in order to make sure that they're going to send us the stuff. So I would say it's a lot of kind of checking in, doing different tasks, but it depends on where the product is at the time and which product it is that kind of builds up my day. So it's yeah, definitely a challenge every day. Something might break and then I have to go fix it, and then that's my day. So it is exciting.
Yeah.
You never know what you're gonna get that day.
It sounds like it, yeah. Marty, what about for you?
I think Diamond and Jordan said it best. I think the production process provides a career that never has a day that repeats itself. You know, and I think it's because of the calendar that we work through. You know, I have my long-term goals, and then I also have my short-term goals that I need to get done. So, you know, I might, you know, right now my head's in spring, summer 22, but I'm doing fittings for fall, winter 21. And so there's just a lot of different moving parts. There's a lot of different moving departments. And then in the big picture, it's about how all those moving parts and different departments function together as one.
That's exciting. I think that sounds so fun. All of your jobs sound amazing. If you'd like me to work with you, I accept immediately. Another good question from Trevor. How would the product development program at FIDM translate to the shoe industry instead of apparel? Whoever wants to start.
I think that, I don't know, something that I haven't worked in shoes, I'll say that, but something that I've learned, because there's actually a time when I joined Urban Corporate, left to work at a few other companies, and have since gone back. And with those other companies, I was working on very different product, technical outerwear, wovens, with Yeezy, and then yoga, lifestyle wear with Spiritual Gangster, both of which I knew less about than I do about sweaters, but I think I was able to bank on sort of the methodical approach of development that I learned at FIDM, and learned through my prior experience, which sort of showed me that I can kind of handle any product category if using those same formulas. So I can't speak for shoes, but I can sort of talk about the process.
I forgot. Right before Louis Vuitton, I actually did an internship with K-Swiss. And originally I had a little interest in footwear. So when the opportunity came about, I decided to do it. The actual title was design intern. So what I took from the product development side was they were looking for someone who could translate trends. So I was making mood boards. That is something that you do learn as a part of the curriculum. I was working with Illustrator, Photoshop, doing different coloration mock-ups and stuff. So there is that part of product development. You know, you break down the business, the technical, the creative, and a lot of the creative I used in that internship, with learning how to use Illustrator, the Photoshop, and then trend research. Those are a few of the classes that they do have as a part of the curriculum. So I think depending on what you want to do in footwear, product development is so broad that there's something that can definitely be translated into it, whether you want to do the design, whether you want to do the production part. I think there could be something that definitely links it there.
I agree with both Damon and Jordan. I think as Adidas, in our golf office, the shoe department is just on the other side of the building, and we work through the same calendar. And, you know, a lot of the skills are very similar. So relating that back to the FIDM curriculum, as Diamond said, you know, you still learn sketching, you still learn how to put a bomb together, you still learn tech packs. It's just a different product. And so, you know, when applying to jobs in the industry, a lot of the time they really just want to make sure, you know, you understand the calendar, you understand, you know, and any other benefits that come with that. You know, FIDM kind of gives you not just the classes and, you know, the homework, they give you experience. And so having that skill set going into a different product or a different, you know, somewhat of a different field, I think FIDM can really still educate you very greatly on it.
Sounds like it's like the principles. You guys have like the foundational principles, and then you can kind of translate those into something like footwear, for example.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah, that's really great. Daryl would like to know, what experiences did you have previously that helped you prepare for your great jobs that you have right now? And anyone who wants to start.
Yeah. I'll jump into this one. So at FIDM, I was lucky enough to to be accepted into the International Manufacturing and Product Development Program, which is an advanced Associates of Arts program. And in this program, you are paired up with a company. When I was in the program in 2019, we paired up with Herbalife Nutrition, and our challenge was to create their first ever activewear line. And so throughout this, there's 15 students, you work through a production calendar and you develop all your styles, all your products, and then you also get to we travel to Milan, Paris, and Hong Kong. And that just gives you a great idea of what the industry is internationally. And for me, that was huge on my resume, just getting that experience on top of having FIDM as the school I went to. That was huge, and that was a huge door opener in the industry for me.
Anybody else?
I'll go. I right along with Marty. The internships during my time at FIDM were so amazing because, again, it is that real life experience, especially working with Louis Vuitton now, dealing with international teams, speaking French, whatever it may be. I had internships where you are working with international teams, whether it's in China or wherever it may be, whether you have to like send them lab dips or you're waiting for a proto. That experience of the interchange and how to work with different people is really helpful. And then I would also say working for Louis Vuitton and the attention to detail, coming from an engineering background, I have experience in that, having to pay attention to the finest detail down to the millimeter, because this impacts the way that the bag is put together. I would definitely say the internships and then my past working experience prepared me.
Very, very interesting. Jordan, what about you?
For me, I think I really sort of look back to my retail experience and actually being on the sales floor, which is how I first got acclimated to the URBN brands. I actually used to work in Anthropologie stores. And I think that customer interaction day in and day out with a product and the company culture, and then translating that every day to the customer, was super valuable into my journey in corporate retail, and sort of understanding those shopping patterns of the customer and what she is gravitating towards from that experience, and then taking that into the actual product and making sure that that product makes sense for the customer. So I often look back to my retail experience.
No, I can see that. It just makes so much sense. That it sounds like all of you, it was a stepping stone that really helped you. Everything was a stepping stone to the next thing.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of designers say too that in the fashion industry, sometimes in industries, it used to be that you'd be like, oh, don't change jobs too much. Stay at one company for a long time. That shows longevity. But I've heard many designers say that actually in this industry, having broad experience is very, very good and very beneficial. What do you guys think about that?
I can definitely speak to that, because at FIDM, I was very eager not just to go to school, but also to get experience in Los Angeles, because I knew there was such great opportunity there. And so I had internships in marketing, PR, product development, design, and I even worked retail. And having that just wide variety of experience, it really helps you build your resume. And then, kind of like Jordan said, understand different consumers in the market and what they're shopping for and what they're looking for. And so just having that wide variety gives you exposure just to so much, and it really shows on your resume that you understand not just certain customers, certain brands, but you understand the industry as a whole.
That makes sense. Yeah, and internships can help with that too. The internships that you did at FIDM too, stepping stones again.
At tons, yes. Everything builds on top of each other, and just because you don't start at your, dream job at first, that doesn't mean you're not going to get there, maybe your second or third job.
Yeah, look at you guys, good examples of that. If anyone has anything to add, go ahead, otherwise I can go to the next question.
Well, just sort of piggybacking off of what Marty said, I feel like personally, I used to get really hung up on, is this next career move or is this next brand the right move? And sort of give myself a lot of anxiety about that. A lot of my FIDM instructors have received emails from me asking for advice about that, which I'm sure they allowed. But I think in my experience, sort of learning to let that go and focus on the journey and setting your intention and doing the best on the job that you have sort of opens you up to really important stepping stones that you maybe would have overlooked. Was sort of an important moment for me to understand.
I really love that. It's such a good learning moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Jordan, especially the anxiety part of trying to like, how do you maneuver, trying to figure out, okay, I got to get the perfect job. I want to do this. But just like you said, like the journey, enjoying that more, just trying out new things. And that's a great thing about internships. They're like 3-month little, I guess, tryouts, if you will. And so if you don't like it, if you're lucky, just get another one and just keep trying until it aligns. I mean, I think, you know, we do get caught up in the end product so much that we don't pay attention to the between. And so just enjoying that, I think you can take a little bit of anything from anywhere. And it's just turning it into like, hey, whatever your next job is, I was able to do this. And that one thing might be what they're looking for. So just enjoying the journey, like Jordan said. I like that.
Super good advice. Very good advice, you guys. Brianna asks, what do you guys think the future is of product development? And also, where are you stationed at work for this time? I'm guessing they mean during the pandemic.
I'm back at work. I'm back and I'm right back in the building. Yeah, like covered in masks and face shields and antibacterial galore. It's just pump away and just put it on your hands. So that's been interesting. I do have like a little anxiety. I'm like, oh my God, I'm back in the office. But to be honest with you, I do like to be hands-on. So I do like being back in that space again. As far as the future of product development, I'm actually really excited because one of the things that we started to see is the creativeness of brands during this time, like the 3D shows. And I can't remember what African designer had the 3D runway, all the different ways that they're showing their new garments and whatnot, and then all the technology behind the scenes. Even some of the things I've seen from Louis Vuitton, like Jordan was mentioning, like 3D either printing or 3D modeling, all the different things that you see in that realm. I think so many brands are having to look at, maybe we need to catch up, because I've always felt fashion sometimes is a little behind when it comes to those technological innovations. Like I feel like now, hopefully they'll start tapping into more, maybe even more collaborative efforts with the Silicon Valley, maybe, you never know. And all over the world, they're working on different things. So I'm hoping to see a lot more technological advancements in front of and behind scenes when we're doing product development.
Anything to add, you guys?
Sure. I'm currently, I sort of have a unique situation where pre-COVID, I'm actually stationed here in LA when our main office is in Philadelphia. So we have a really tiny little LA office here. So I've sort of already been working remotely with our team. That being said, through this, our LA office has been closed for the time being. So working at home with all of my yarns here, which has been a joy and a curse. But as far as sort of the changes in product development, I think for us, where we had been so trend focused in the past, and it's been about getting faster and it's been about reacting more, I'm actually starting to see a slow shift to quality and not necessarily quantity, which is, I think, becoming much more important to our customer, especially our young customer, who is so in tune to sustainability and the earth and wanting to invest in a product and not wanting to throw it away. So I think that will be huge going forward. And we're really trying to stand with our customer along that and creating really authentic, sustainable sourcing strategies, which I think will be really exciting.
Yeah, that does sound exciting.
And then I'm working from home, you know, the typical, The usual. I've had some pretty amazing, I made some pretty amazing Instagram stories of me trying to fit a bunch of mannequins in a 2-door coupe, driving back from my office. But yeah, I mean, we adjust and, we learn, the person that works across the world from you now is now sitting next to you. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, you guys. How do you all feel about some rapid fire lightning round questions right now? We have quite a few questions left and we want to try to get to as many as possible. How do you guys feel about the lightning round where I ask a question and whoever wants to answer it, but you don't all have to answer it? Is that good?
Let's do it.
Are you cool with that? We're going to try to get as many of your questions as we can. If you're ready. Okay, this one, okay. Darius has a good question. I'm interested in denim. I'm based in Los Angeles. I don't know if I feel comfortable walking around to get swatches in the fashion district right now during COVID. Should I just take a wait and see, should I just wait and see for now, or what should I do? Like, should I move forward? I think he's asking, should I move forward and go ahead and go, or should I wait?
I would see what your online resources are maybe before you sort of step out into the world. The yarns that I'm looking at right now, like the collections that I was talking about from Italy, are all available in PDFs online and super interactive PDFs where you can click through and see all the yarn components. So yeah, maybe that's not available with the suppliers that you're looking at, but I would try that first.
Very good advice. Thank you. Okay, this one is specifically for Diamond. Diamond, did you complete your engineering degree and then later go to FIDM? And if so, what helped you to make that decision versus going towards the engineering world specifically?
Okay, yeah, I completed my degree and I actually worked in oil and gas back in Houston, Texas for a few years. I was laid off, and so I had this moment where I said, okay, I can try to look still in the same industry or maybe just go out and try to do something I actually loved. And so since I loved fashion, I just took the leap of faith, I guess. And that's when I was looking around, how do I do this? And I thought, okay, maybe I'll just go back to school, especially because FIDM just has the 1-year professional program. So I said, in 1 year, if I don't like it, then I'll do something else. But yeah, I was stuck in a situation and I was like, well, I never liked engineering in the first place. So I might as well do something with my life I enjoy. So I enjoy life more. So I jumped and decided to go to FIDM after that.
Great. Awesome. Very, very good. Okay, Sherry would like to know, do you have any advice for new graduates on how to start out in the fashion industry, especially with COVID going on around us?
Ooh, yeah.
Get your digital portfolio up as of yesterday. Get creative with that as other brands are with their fashion shows. I have stuff up on my Instagram. I think Instagram's a great way to do it. Social media, I put everything you have everywhere.
Excellent advice. Excellent.
I say networking too. This is a really good time. Everyone's at home, they're on their computers. Even I have reached out to people on LinkedIn, wherever it may be, and they're responding right now. This might be a really good time to start kind of getting your feelers in while people are literally they can be at home and they can also be looking at different things. So try to jump in someone's DMs. You never know what will happen until you try.
Great advice. Good. Okay, next we have Nathalie wants to know, would you advise someone who's starting their career, what advice would you give to someone who they're just starting their career in product development? Any words of wisdom for that?
Something that is sort of not directly related to product development that I think is really important within the field is relationship management. So when I came into product development, I didn't realize sort of how many different people and different cross-functional teams you would be dealing with and how many relationships you have to maintain and then build, whether with your cross-functional teams in your company or with vendors overseas. So just sort of schooling yourself on that and learning conflict resolution. And I use this example all the time, which sounds really silly, but I love The Housewives on Bravo, and just like watching movies, watching TV, watching people resolve conflict and talk to each other is so valuable, I found.
That's a good question. Anyone have something to add? That's a pretty good one. So.
No, that was great.
That was great. Okay, good. I just want to make sure because that's the question, So, okay. What are some trends we can expect for 2021 spring?
Ooh.
I think today we just had the men's show. It aired 6:30 in Paris and this morning. It was really interesting. I think we're gonna see a lot of color, and particularly for Louis Vuitton, not that I'm giving up any secrets, it's just you're seeing a lot of like our iconic shapes, but you're seeing it in more fun prints. At least that's what I'm seeing right now for what we are developing to come out soon. I think we're really keying on those key models that have been doing really well, the on-the-go, the multi-pochette, that have just been flying off the shelves. And now I think they're trying to find new ways to use fabrication, different colors. So I'm starting to see it in all these different SKUs that'll be really exciting to see if people like them in the spring.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. You heard it here first, you guys.
But don't quote me.
So don't quote her, but just look for it.
Some secrets here, okay?
Diamond didn't say that. Okay, so last question, you guys, and it does piggyback off of the product development one I just asked, but just to wrap it all up, and I'd like to hear from each of you, what advice do you have for someone who wants to be, who's thinking about going to FIDM or thinking about being in the industry of fashion in general? Any words of wisdom that you would say to them right now with the situation and where they can go, what they can do? What do you think, you guys? Yeah. Words, your jewels. Give them your gems of wisdom right now to wrap us up.
Be flexible.
I would say.
Oh, sorry, Marty. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I would say just stay true to yourself. Do what you want. I think staying true to yourself is really important, just because you're making a lot of decisions in your life, and it's a big investment anywhere. But if you stay true to yourself, you're going to end up doing what you want. You're going to love your career, and then if you stay true to the company you work for, you're going to understand the consumer like no other. And so I think just staying true to yourself and loving what you do is very important within this process.
Mm-hmm.
Be open. Be open to, when I started my journey with FIDM, I thought I was going to be a celebrity stylist. I tried it for 1 week. I was over it. So then I opened myself up to something else. Be open. Try everything. You are allowed to do what you would like and try everything. And it's okay if it doesn't work out. Try the next thing and you might love that more. So be open to all the different things. The most exciting part, like I said, about product development is so broad. There's so many things you can do. So be open to the possibilities of your journey with FIDM.
Great. Jordan?
Just sort of reiterating what I said before, just really throw yourself into the journey of it, and have fun and enjoy that. Enjoy each stepping stone that you take, even if it's not the path that you envisioned it to be. Because I'm, like Marty said too, if you remain true to yourself and sort of true to that journey, I think you'll end up where you want to be. And this one might be deeply personal, but I would suggest to learn Excel, which I sort of had to school myself in the first few years of my corporate career. And it has opened doors for me. So it sounds silly, but I highly recommend.
No, that's great.
Totally agree.
Gems of wisdom from you guys. Thank you guys for sharing all that. It's so inspiring to hear about your journeys and your advice, because we are so proud of you as FIDM grads. And we're really grateful that you guys could be here with us today. It's been really fun to talk to you. I've personally enjoyed it very much. So Jordan, Diamond, Marty, thank you for being here. And we hope to see you again in another event.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you to all of you, our audience. We're so happy that you could be here with us today. We hope that today's discussion has given you insight into the world of product development, how it's evolving under the current circumstances, and hopefully giving you some inspiration to chase your own dreams, whatever they might be in these industries. So we invite you all to stay connected with us through social media and of course through our website for upcoming virtual events. And as always, to stay inspired. Have a good night, everyone.